Hey everyone, this is Bill Krieger from the Veterans Archives podcast, where we preserve and share the incredible stories of our nation's heroes. Catch us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Wreaths Across America Radio, or stream anytime on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Really, anywhere you choose to get your podcast, you should be able to find us. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on social media to help us reach more veterans and supporters. We are a nonprofit, and this service is completely free for veterans. Every story matters, and every voice deserves to be heard. Spread the word, honor our heroes, and join us on this mission. Follow, share, and tune in, because their story should never be forgotten. Learn more at veteransarchives.org. We'll see you there. Good morning. Today is Monday, May 5th, 2025. We're talking with Jim Hock, who served in the United States Army. So good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
So we're going to start out easy. I'm just going to ask, when and where were you born?
I was born in Muskegon, Michigan, and that was in 1943.
Okay, so did you grow up in Muskegon?
I was actually from a large family, and my mother and my real father separated, and I wound up being adopted into another family, and my adoptive parents and I basically grew up around Belding, Michigan, on a farm, and that's where I was basically raised out around Belding.
Okay, so were you just a baby when you were adopted out?
I was probably about 2 years old. My parents that adopted me couldn't have any children, and they were neighbors to the lady that had me, and she had too many children to take care of, and wanted to know if they wanted to adopt me, and they did.
So you got to go grow up on a farm then?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. What was that like for you?
It was very interesting. We had a lot of animals and stuff, and when I was 13 years old, my father got very sick, and I did all the planting, all the harvesting. I ran that farm all by myself, 13 years old.
Wow.
My mother come out one day, I was trying to change a plowshare, and I was using some language I probably shouldn't have been. She just turned around and walked back into the house. So if he's old enough to do that, he's old enough to vent.
Oh, no doubt. So you didn't have any other brothers and sisters at your adopted family then?
No, but I was an only child for them.
That's a lot for a 13-year-old kid.
It was, yeah.
But I can tell you have a lot of pride in it.
Oh, yes. It was, when I got to take my driver's license, it was no problem because I'd driven everything you could think of almost by that time.
Well, yeah, and you could drive a stick shift too.
Yes, I could.
I always told my kids, if you can drive a stick shift, you can drive anything.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So what kind of farming did you do?
It was just crop farming basically, and we had dairy cows and a lot of different animals and stuff. So yeah, one day my Dad was carrying a bucket full of eggs back from the hen house, and we had a banty rooster, flew into the bucket of eggs, broke most of them. Guess what we had for Sunday dinner?
Did it have a name?
Probably. My dad called him many names, but it was a banty rooster.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So you basically had to be the man of the house and kind of run things.
Yeah, for that 1 year I did, yeah. Then my daddy did get better. And, yeah.
Came back and took over. Was that hard for you, for him to take over, since you had that whole year kind of running it your way?
I think I was kind of relieved.
Yeah.
I had other things I wanted to do at that age.
Yeah. So you were in school then? You went to...
Yes. It was at a little country school. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, was that like a K through 12 school then?
K through 8, I think it was. Yeah.
Okay.
Then we went to high school from there.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to Belding High School then?
Went to Belding High School.
Okay.
Yeah. And my wife at that time lived just down the road from us. We both had horses growing up, and so, yeah.
Oh, so that's, I mean, if you think about it, like I know kids today are like, oh, horses, that's a lot of fun, but that was kind of a necessity.
Yeah, it kind of was, yeah.
Yeah, but you still had to got to have a good time.
Oh, yes.
So was there anything in school that you really enjoyed?
I enjoyed sports. I participated in sports and 4-H. We did that. So, yeah.
Okay. And what kinds of things did you do in 4-H?
Well, just mostly like what things farmers do, have shows for the animals and things like that.
Okay. All right. Been to a few 4-H shows myself at the county fairs. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's always been, my daughters showed horses.
Okay.
So they really they enjoyed that. And so you made it through school then? Did you graduate?
Yeah, I graduated from Belding. Unfortunately, my wife, her father passed away as she was we were in 8th grade in country school. And so her and her family, they moved to Alma, where her mother's sister lived, and by the Masonic home, that's where her mother went to work. And so we kind of dated back and forth between Belding and Alma. Finally, one day I said, "This is costing too much money for gas. Let's get married."
How romantic. That's so funny. Yeah, there was no cell phones and no email back then.
No, not back then. No.
Not at all. So, yeah. So how old were you when you got married?
Let's see, I was 64.
Okay.
Yeah, 1964. We just had our 61st anniversary here this year.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Yeah. Especially with that romantic ask for her. So you got married right away, and then so 64. This would have been right at the beginning of Vietnam, or kind of in the middle.
It must. I'm not sure if it was at the beginning or.
Okay, so we're talking about the Vietnam War. So you've graduated and you're married now.
Yes.
And the war is going on. So were you drafted?
Okay, I was working at General Motors at the time, full time. I was going to college full time. My wife and I were trying to have children, and things that this was 1966 at this time, and things didn't happen. And so I dropped down to part-time student one term because my grade point, I was trying to get my grade point up. And then we moved into another apartment. We didn't even have the boxes unpacked. I got a letter from the draft board. I had to report I was being drafted.
Wow, they didn't waste any time.
That was in 1966, yep. Yep. So then I moved her up to Alma, where her mother and where she used to live at that time. And that's when I reported for my training at Fort Knox.
Okay.
I mean, it was a crushing blow. But anyway, that's when I left from my basic training. Then once I got my basic training done, that's when I learned I was being sent to Fort Sam Houston to be a medic.
Okay. I want to ask a couple questions, though, before we get too far in, and that is, what was it like for you in basic training? You grew up on a farm, and so you clearly weren't afraid of a hard day's work.
No.
But what was it like getting there, and how was that for you?
I think it just felt like the freedom was taken away because, I couldn't do everything I wanted to do at that time. And I was, like I said, I was going to college and everything. And it was kind of hard type of life to live with after being married and being responsible adults and everything, to be treated like they have to treat some people. So one time we was out on a patrol, and this guy ahead of me, big tall guy, kept getting out of step, and the sergeant was screaming at me, kick him. I said, I'm not going to kick him. He'll turn around and kill me. Oh, then the sergeant kicked me about twice, and I went down on my knees. Then I started kicking that guy ahead of me. Anyway, lived through it.
Yeah, lessons learned, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you graduate basic training, and then you head off to Fort Sam.
Yep, Fort Sam Houston. I was shocked because I thought of all the training I had. I was school. I was studying business administration. I thought, well, maybe I'll get an office job.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work. I still think they thought, well, he's going to college, he's smart enough to be a medic. And I think that's part of the reason I got there.
So this whole experience so far, everything's been chosen for you. You haven't really had any choices in any of it.
And I was, like I said, I was very apprehensive about this because I knew medics that the enemy would shoot somebody and wait for somebody to come out and help them. That would be their next target.
Right. Right. So what was Fort Sam Houston like for you?
Oh, it was very interesting. I mean, obviously, I learned a lot of things that I used for the rest of my life. Actually, I helped save lives after I got out of the service too, from the training that I had. And so anyway, but I got out of after my medical training. I found out I was going to the 1st Infantry Division as a combat medic, and I was very scared. So anyway, I said I had a couple of weeks to leave before I left for Vietnam, and I'll never forget my wife standing on the runway, brown coat, fur collar, and I knew when I kissed her goodbye that I was never going to see her again. I just knew it.
Yeah.
So it was awful.
How did you deal with that? Because you had, it's not like you have a choice. You have to go.
No.
But you're terrified all at the same time.
I said, like I said, I could still see her as I looked out on the window of the airplane, and away we went.
Yeah.
It was a long, long flight to Vietnam. We landed at Benoit Airport, and it was nighttime. They had us pull all the shades down on the windows as we was coming in for a landing, and they kept high altitude. And when we landed, it was like we took a nosedive to the runway to avoid enemy fire.
Good old combat landing, I think is what they call it.
It was definitely a combat landing.
Yeah.
So, and then it was after we got landed, we was given our unit assignments, and I found out that I was going to the 1st Infantry Division, and I was assigned to the 1st and 7th Artillery, which was 105 howitzers. And I said, for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope that I might get home alive, as I wasn't going to an infantry unit, but was in support of them. So then it wasn't long after I got into Vietnam that one of our medics got wounded, and I had to go out to the file to replace him. And he was a big, tall guy, and he took a lot of shrapnel in his back. I don't know if I would have survived had it been, my taking all that.
Right.
And that's when the first casualties I had to work on was the worst I had the whole year I was there. It was an artilleryman. He was on his 2nd tour in Vietnam. He was carving his initials into a 105 howitzer with a screwdriver and a hammer, and it exploded, injured him and 2 others. And when I got there, they were both, everybody was yelling for me to help them, and they were all blood from their waist up to their helmet, because we had flak vests, but nobody wore them.
Right. Right.
And so anyway, the one guy, he had his broken arm, and he had two spots broken arm. One eye was hanging out. It was bad. And like I said, I felt like I was the most inadequate medic in the world at that point in time. And I was trying to do what I was trained for, and a person kept getting in my way. I told him to stay out of my way. And I did not know there was a field hospital just down the road from us. After I told him to get out of my way, he told me that he was a doctor.
Oh.
And so we worked together, got the injured out, airlifted to another hospital. And anyway, afterwards, he started talking to me and told me all the things that I did good. He said I did a good job. And he actually gave me the confidence that I needed at that point. That got me through the rest of the year. And so we spent about 9 months of the whole year out in the field. We'd go out and we'd go back to base camp once in a while to just to get rearmed and get supplies and stuff. And so anyway, Zion was our base camp. That's where we went back. And apparently my performance with my first casualties impressed the doctor I worked for, as I was promoted to a Spec 5 specialist, and I only had 11 months in the Army.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah, that was quick.
You must have done something right.
Yeah. And I had one medic who worked for me who was what they call a conscientious objector.
Yes.
They didn't believe in the war and refused to carry weapons. However, he was drafted. He answered his country's call, and he was a very good medic. And and I'll never forget, if we were set up.
Let's take a quick break.
Hey, listeners, we need your help to keep the Veterans Archives podcast going. We're a nonprofit dedicated to preserving the stories of our nation's heroes, and we provide this service completely free to veterans. Your support helps us record, share, and archive these incredible stories so future generations never forget the sacrifices made for our freedom. Every donation, big or small, makes a difference. Visit veteransarchives.org to contribute today. Help us honor their service by ensuring their voices are heard. And thank you for your support, and thank you to all the veterans who have served our country.
For a village at nighttime, it was fairly easy to tell if we're going to get hit that night, because all the lights in the village would be on. We could most knew that something was going to happen. And so we had tents to stay in, as well as we had bunkers to get into if we did come under attack. One night we had set up, and we were told we had to get out of the area we was at, so we had to go reset up again. And I was so tired, I slept in a bunker with my head actually laying in a puddle of water. Because I never would sleep real well until I heard the cooks making noise getting breakfast. Then that's when I could fall back asleep. And one of our worst attacks happened when some Vietnamese women set an ammo dump on fire in Lai Khe. And I mean, there was explosions all over the place. Mm-hmm. And I saw them carry out one of the women who was killed, had set the fire. She had a water blister on her back that covered, putting her all over her back. But she was dead. Yeah. And I knew there was people in the ammo dump. Finally convinced the MPs to let me and another medic to enter into the ammo dump area. And so, even though the things were still burning, we found some men in a bunker who were afraid to come out. I finally told the sergeant, I said, get these guys out of here and get them safe. And they got out and they all survived. And I was put in by my sergeant for that, actually for a Silver Star Award, but he was just getting ready to retire from the Army, and I saw the paperwork, but somehow it got lost, and it never happened.
That happens.
Yeah, so, and we did have some fun times. I'll never forget, I saw Bob Hope Christmas show. He and Raquel, Welch, and Barbara McNair were on the stage. I remember Barbara McNair singing a song, I Am a Woman, like there was any doubt among the 200 GIs looking on the stage.
Yeah. What about Raquel Welch? She was quite something.
Oh, yes, they were both beautiful.
Yeah.
Then one other time was back in our base camp, and we had a barracks brawl. Somebody hit me hard. I was lying on the floor, and I couldn't move, but I could hear what was going on. And I heard someone yell out, "Go get the medic." Someone yelled out, "He is the medic."
Oh, no.
Anyway,
what was the cause of the brawl, you know?
I don't know. Everybody got back. Everybody was drinking too much, and, after spending weeks out in the field. And anyway.
Just blowing off some steam and beating up the medic, right?
Yeah. I don't know. We always enjoyed getting letters from home. Linda and I would send those little tape things back. We'd send tapes back and home to each other. And so, and one day Saigon was coming at a fierce attack one time. I went to a store in Benoit and bought a set of China dinnerware, which I sent home on the ship. Not one piece got chipped or anything. Came through perfect. So anyway, and then one day I was in our medical building when I heard a helicopter approaching, and all of a sudden I heard an abnormal noise and an explosion. And what happened, the rotor came off the helicopter, cut the back end of it off, and it fell right into the building next to us. And the people in the building, they survived, but everyone on the helicopter were killed. And there was 3 people on that helicopter that had their suitcases and was catching a ride to the airport to come home because their tour was done. They were all killed.
Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, as my tour was almost done, I had 6 months left to go to the Army. They said if I extended there for 3 months in Vietnam, I could get out early. And I said, I don't want to stay here 3 more minutes. Get me on a plane to come home.
Yeah.
And so anyway, when I was getting ready to come home, I was astounded that we were told not to wear our uniform to the airport, as protesters would call us baby killers, spit and throw things at us. And I just never understood that. Anyway, my last assignment in the Army was at Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, New York. It was a chaplain's base, school base. And my wife came out with me, and we had an enjoyable experience as we got a lot of free tickets to the Broadway plays and baseball games. And I don't know, I just feel so blessed to have made it home as a medic. My medical training has helped me save other lives over the years. One was my daughter at one time who was choking, and so that's pretty much it.
So did she show up in the brown coat with the fur collar when you saw her again, your wife?
When I came home?
Yeah, I was just curious.
I don't remember.
You were just probably so happy to be home. You don't even.
I
it
was.
doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
So you, how many kids did you have?
Well, then afterward we adopted our first daughter. Then we had 2 of our own. So
3 children altogether.
3 altogether.
Yeah. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what you did after you got home, if that's all right.
Okay. Well, fortunately, being with the war going on in GM and stuff, I got to keep my seniority kept going on there, and so I went back and I got an associate degree. I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't have the urge to go to school after I got back as much as I did before.
Yeah.
And because I had a good job at GM, it was real good paying, and I had a lot of good experiences there. One time I was responsible for trying out a new engine assembly line in Italy. And so I was in charge of getting the planes, all the parts over there. And we got over there and was waiting for the parts to be delivered at where we were at. But there was a soccer game going on, and these 2 Italians, they didn't want to miss the soccer game, so they took my plane to the wrong airport. And then I had to truck everything from the airport back to the place where we were using it.
They have their priorities over there, right?
Yes, they do. So anyway, I had some very good experience working for GM. Like I said, I had 39 years in when I retired. And when we got back, this is where we finally bought our first houses right here. And we were the 3rd house out here at the time. And so we love it out here. And
so you've lived here in this house since really since you got back. Then.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
So this house was pretty expensive back then. It was $17,000.
I remember when I bought my first house, my father-in-law almost lost his mind because it was just so expensive. But it's that's how it works, right?
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep, the world keeps on turning.
It does. It does. So, can you tell me a little bit about your children and what they're doing now?
Well, my one child, she lives up by Grayling, and she works up there. She's divorced. In fact, unfortunately, all 3 of my kids are divorced. My next daughter, she works at the Red Cross here in Lansing. and she's been there for many, many years. And she's with a love of her life right now. They're not married, but he's been very, very ill. So she's working hard to support him. And our son, he lives near the high school here in Portland.
Oh.
He works for Gordon's Food in Brighton, but he loves living here. So he drives back and forth every day.
Oof, that's a drive.
So, but between that, we got a lot of great grandkids and great grandkids, and we just love them.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And you said you just celebrated your
61st
anniversary.
Yeah.
So things seem to be turning out for you.
Oh, yes.
I was curious. Did you ever find or meet up with any of your siblings from your birth mother?
I had one sister. Okay, my birth mother, when I was born, her husband was in the service in World War II. He was overseas. Come home, he had a surprise. I was there. And so my first name was Leffering. Well, he forgave her and adopted me to his name, which was Goodwin. He got deployed again. And when he came home, I had another baby sister.
Oh.
And that was the end of that. So that's when they separated. And so that's when I got adopted to my third name, Hock.
Okay.
I've had more last names than a lot of ladies. So anyway, but one of the sisters, my youngest other sister, she got adopted out too. And she died of cancer. Well, one of my other half sisters knew where my mother and dad knew where I was at. So she said, we're going to find Jim. And they found me. And so I kind of had some relationship with them but there was kind of a different family.
Yeah.
And anyway, then since that sister passed away, I haven't really had any contact with them, but it was quite an experience.
Oh, I'll bet. And also, you served in the Michigan National Guard.
Yes,
for a while.
I served over there in Grand Ledge, and I served in the medical department, and because I knew my training would get me a good job over there, and I enjoyed it for quite a while. But after a while, between working and overtime and everything, it just became a little bit too much. Excuse me.
So did you go to Camp Grayling for training when you were there? Okay.
Yep.
So was this in the 70s or the... Oh, go ahead.
Let's see. About, I think, it was in the 70s. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the 1970s. Can you... I'm just curious. I served in the National Guard myself, and a lot of people I interview served in the Guard. What was it like in the 70s to serve in the National Guard? Can you talk a little bit about just some of your experiences there?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I enjoyed the summer camps, enjoyed the friendship, the camaraderie that you have. And then, like I said, I had one neighbor that was a helicopter pilot in Vietnam. He was over there, so we made a lot of friends and stuff. So
a lot of shared experience, that kind of thing. Okay. All right. Was there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
No, I don't know. I just worried about the way things are going on in the world today. And I don't know. I just can't figure out what's going on in the world today. So
a lot of people I talk to feel that way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I always felt that all the lives that were lost in Vietnam, we didn't win the war, I always felt, because they didn't let us. You don't beat somebody when you wait for them to come into your own area. I always felt if we'd have went north, and we could, I don't know if that would have been right or wrong.
Yeah.
We could, but
things might have been different. Anyway.
Yeah. I had a neighbor boy that I grew up with. He was killed in Vietnam. Yeah. So.
Well, what was it like? So you were in Vietnam, you came home, you kind of went on about your life, and then we left Vietnam, and we didn't really leave under great circumstances. What was that like for you to kind of see that happen after having been there?
Again, I just felt what a waste of 56,000 lives. That was they're gone. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, a lot of young men.
Yes, there was. And I felt just so lucky that I could have been one of them.
Yeah. Well, like you said, when you were getting on the plane, you felt pretty certain that you weren't going to come back.
Yep.
Yeah. But you
That's
did.
That's right. Yeah, but I did it. It was hard.
Yeah. Well, and here you are. You had a great career. You've raised the family.
Yeah.
You've been married to your wife for a good long time.
Yeah.
And living out here in Portland. By the way, it was a beautiful drive out here. The only really question I have left is, for someone listening to your story years from now, what message would you like to leave for them?
Just feel lucky that you're in a country that you're free to follow your dreams. Just keep following your dreams. Don't give up. So
That's what you did, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for taking time out on a Monday morning to talk with me, Jim.
Thank you for being here. Enjoyed it.
You're welcome. That's a wrap for this episode of the Veterans Archives podcast. We truly appreciate you taking the time to listen and honor the incredible stories of our nation's heroes. Don't forget, you can catch us every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Wreaths Across America Radio, or stream past episodes anytime on Buzzsprout, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and as I've said before, any place you can find a podcast, you can find the Veterans Archives podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share our content on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and across all social media. Every share helps us reach more people and preserve more stories. The Veterans Archives podcast is a nonprofit initiative, and our mission is simple: to give veterans a voice and ensure their stories are never forgotten. This service is completely free for veterans because their sacrifices deserve to be recognized and remembered. You want to help? Follow us, spread the word, and if you know a veteran with a story to tell, send them our way. Visit us at veteransarchives.org to learn more about how you can get involved. Thanks again for tuning in, and most importantly, thank you to all the veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice. Until next time, take care, and we will see you on the next episode of the Veterans Archives podcast.